whistle, they can't hold a flame against you. Like, blow the whistle, blow the whistle, blow the whistle. Got the game, it ain't no issue. Yeah. Blowing the whistle, I had it up with you. The championship, it is gone. Ain't listen to you, I can't give it to you, cause you don't know what I've been on. This is the Coaches Podcast, ripping up everything podcast.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Fantasy Coaches Podcast. I'm your host, Steve Pintato, and with me, as always, is my main manager, Braun Curtis. What's going on today, Jibs?
Oh, I got the Monday blues, man. I was just making mistakes all morning long, but probably going to make a couple on this podcast, so just beware. But, hot takes here to give some takes today, to say the least.
No, I feel you, man. Me and Jibs right now are doing a Dynasty startup with a bunch of people throughout the industry, and he made a mistake this morning. I made a mistake this morning, cost TJ Hawkinson over Juju. Pretty upset about that. Thankfully, the league was pretty cool. Let me just throw Juju back in the pot there. So,
yeah, I was sounding the alarm. I was texting everything, caps letters in this group chat, but I got it quicker than you did that, unfortunately.
You sure did, yes. The guy right after me took TJ Hawkinson from me when I really wanted him. But, it is what it is. I just love doing some Dynasty startups. There's always some fun things to find, and we got a lot more to go. So, like I said, guys, if you watched the show last week, you're probably wondering, well, where's the free agency? Well, we have the free agency frenzy going on now, guys. We couldn't get our guest on today, unfortunately, just to do some timing thing. But we got to keep on rolling with here because we got to talk about these free agent signings, man. Just talking about it, there were so many that we were waiting for, and they just hit on the last 4 or 5 last days now. And we have a lot to talk about today, and we're going to kind of talk about what their signing kind of means for their value, and maybe some players who are affected because of those signings, or maybe those players are leaving teams and how their value kind of works. So we're going to go through the quarterback, the running back, wide receivers, and tight ends here. So let's get started, Jibs. Let's see. Let's start with the quarterback situation here now. And this one, obviously, a fan favorite of mine to some extent here. And it's Ryan Fitzpatrick. He signed a 1-year, $10 million deal with the Washington football team to be their supposedly starting quarterback. Again, there's some reports that, it's not 100% confirmed. But,
he's roll with Taylor?
Huh?
Taylor Heineke?
They might be Taylor Heineke. I don't know. It's possible. What's going on, P2W Fantasy? Thanks for tweeting in here, my guy. Appreciate that. I didn't put the thing up here. But, yeah, so, Jibs, what does this do for you in terms of Ryan Fitzpatrick? Is he someone that you would consider being as a maybe at least a second quarterback on a 2-quarterback league or Superflex league right now?
Hey, I'm learning the ropes, but I would take him with a whim, though. If I kind of took the position for granted and took one early and was scraping for the pot later on. Obviously, if you're taking Ryan Fitzpatrick, you're going to have to, or at that kind of point in the draft, you're going to have a little backup plan. The guy's 38 years old, but he secured the bag, getting $10 million, playing for a team that's kind of been searching for a quarterback. I know Fitzpatrick isn't your typical perfect starting quarterback, but sure, he's probably a Hall of Fame British quarterback, for Christ's sake. So I'm liking it there for him. He has an opportunity to extend his career. He could play hard being in Miami. And I wouldn't mind having him as a QB 2-3 on my Dynasty roster at the moment.
I don't hate it, honestly. I don't hate it. He's definitely a cool, really buy low option if you want to get a guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick on your team, because we all know what he is. He's just let me whack it downfield here, and hopefully someone kind of catches it. And he'll continue to do that no matter what happens. Again, he's somewhat but turnover prone, which, to me, I like the signing for the Washington football team, but I don't particularly like it in terms of fantasy. And it's the fact is that he hasn't played a 16-game season in quite a long time. Last time was with the Jets, and he had one great season with them. And then after that, he had a mediocre season at best. And I just don't know if he's the type of quarterback that will do 16 games. Maybe he can do half the season and be kind of good for us in fantasy, or maybe he kind of shits the bed and doesn't really do that well. And so to me, I like Ryan Fitzpatrick, but the pressure of him being able to throw the deep ball consistently and just having pressure on him, it definitely scares me that he's not going to live up to this hype that everyone's talking about. I think I'd rather sell a guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick right now if a contender team needs a second-round pick, or they need a quarterback in the second round, sell it. Try to get a second round pick back for a late second round pick for a guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick, because I think he will. I think he's overhyped a little bit in terms of what you're kind of getting from Ryan Fitzpatrick right now. But in terms of where he's going to, does this help a guy like Terry McLaurin right now for Egypt?
Oh, I was about to get to that point. Like, for my main focus for Dynasty Fantasy, like, kind of things is, like, he will stabilize the skill group there. Like, it's not like we're going to get, like, a shell of Alex Smith or a shell of Dwayne Haskins, or if he wants to sprinkle in him doing something good or fantastic. But I think you're going to have a guy who knows how to operate an NFL offense. I don't care if he's been on quite so many offensive schemes and all this good stuff. So I think he will do good for Terry McLaurin. They still have like a long-term answer, but like I feel better about Ryan Fitzpatrick being the quarterback there than them having Taylor Heineke starting and getting the whole season output.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, honestly. Like I said, I don't like Fitzpatrick in terms of fantasy, but I like what he's able to do for the surrounding weapons, and we'll talk about one of them in a little bit. But in terms of Terry McLaurin, he's probably his best quarterback he's had in his 2 years now with the Washington football team, a guy who actually will air the ball out downfield towards him and make him have those big plays. I mean, you saw him do it with Devontae Parker. You saw him do it back in the day with guys like, obviously Mike Evans and Chris Godwin a couple years ago. Like, Ryan Fitzpatrick can help get fantasy players or his skill players to the next level, and I think this could be the year that Fitzpatrick can do that for a guy like Scary Terry right now. So, again, good signing for the Washington football team. Hopefully it works out for them. So let's go over the next quarterback duo here. And this was a duo kind of thing. It kind of happened right before free agency kind of started. Obviously, the first one was Taysom Hill signed a 4-year, $140 million extension. Again, that was, that's not exactly what it is. What'd you say?
Secure the bag.
Secure the bag. Again, there's like this little clauses in it that allows them to get out of it after year. So again, it looks great on paper, but there's some details into it you got to really look at. But also, Jameis Winston signed the 1-year deal, up to $12 million deal with the Saints as well here now. Now, Jibs, now that we kind of mentioned the NFC South a couple of weeks ago here now, but how do you feel about these guys? Who do you feel like is going to be the starter, and who will be better for fantasy?
I'm going to roll with Jameis Winston still. I just think in the sample size, I know last year with the Taysom Hill experience, like some fantasy guys in the community will kind of be intrigued about Taysom Hill. I know even like what NFL things were saying, like, hey, Drew Brees said it was Jameis Winston's offense when he left the field and stuff like that. Like, I want to go with the guy who's a proven passer, and I know he's prone to turnovers and all that good stuff, but the guy's been there for a year studying under Drew Brees, and I think he could be the guy moving forward. But like, you can't like really tamper down Taysom Hill either, because like Drew Brees was there, they still use Taysom Hill. Last year, Jameis Winston was there, no Drew Brees, they still use Taysom Hill. So I still think both of them has viable production moving forward, but I'm more intrigued with Winston as a passing quarterback. I guess the number one passing quarterback in that option for that offense.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same boat with you. To be honest, this whole position between these two quarterbacks, it's something that we're going to have to monitor all offseason long, guys. I mean, obviously we assume that Jameis Winston would be the starter because he's the more natural passer. But again, Drew Brees the last couple seasons was playing, and Taysom Hill jumped on the field a whole bunch. So it's not that if Jameis Winston can't control these turnovers he's having, I don't see why they don't all right, Taysom Hill, your time to go shine. And once again, like, we can't have turnovers going to Jameis. Like, you have a short lease, and I think he's going to have somewhat of a short lease going into this offseason here. Like, hey, clean up the turnovers, or we're going to go to Taysom Hill, who we've already paid to be a pretty decent quarterback for us if they keep the money where they're at right now, and Jameis can be gone after the season. So I think in terms of, what you're going to look at, I think, honestly, both these guys, for me, they're sells, because I don't know if they're going to be splitting all season long, and that's kind of how I feel about it. Like, I'd be looking to split these guys right now and sell these guys off and just kind of get my most best value for them.
I like that.
Yeah, no, definitely. So what do these guys do? Do you believe that Taysom Hill, or do you believe a guy like Jameis Winston is better suited for these guys like Michael Thomas or Alvin Kamara right now, Jibs?
I'm gonna go with the unknown and Jameis Winston.
Jameis Winston. I think honestly, it's the same for me as well. I mean, you have to assume that Jameis is going to continue to throw to, and I think Michael Thomas goes either way. Honestly, I think Michael Thomas is fine if you have Taysom Hill or Jameis Winston starting. You should be happy now that I think Michael Thomas is going to be a steady low end wide receiver one for you in fantasy. So if you had that issue prior to them re-signing, you shouldn't have that worry. He should be perfectly fine to kind of jump back into that top tier in terms of fantasy. Alvin Kamara, I honestly think a little differently when it comes to which quarterback is better. I mean, I think Jameis is the better option for him. Again, Jameis wasn't known too much throwing to the RB position there, but Jameis is going to just run with the ball when he's feeling pressured. He's going to probably dump it off into more of that Alvin Kamara role where a guy like Taysom Hill, he may end up running the ball a little bit more. And we saw that last year when, Taysom Hill kind of ran for like 85 yards a game almost when he was the starting quarterback. So, again, it's a wait to see because, again, it's a wait to see right now because we just don't know who's going to be the starter. And if Jameis starts and goes down or not goes down, but continually throws those turnovers, it's all Taysom Hill probably at that point. So you just really don't know at this point. All right, and continuing with the quarterback trend here, guys. Just a brief talk here. Mitch Trubisky, Jibs, he signed a 1 year up to $2.5 million deal to be the backup for the Buffalo Bills right now. Did you believe that was a smart move for him? Do you believe, he's someone to kind of buy low in terms of fantasy right now that, hey, again, you're not expecting him to start anytime soon, but God forbid Josh Allen goes down or maybe in the future if he sees a better opportunity?
The only reason why I would have any interest in buying him if I think he has a viable chance to be a starting quarterback in another city or a franchise. For me, Mitch Trubisky, good NFL move. You could chase a ring going to the Buffalo Bills. You're basically backing up a premier quarterback in the AFC. So you ain't going to have to do much duty but hold that clipboard. But for me, I don't want nothing to do with them, even as injury replacement.
All right. I see your point on that. Like I said, I think it's good for Mitch. We had a kind of conversation, I think, in one of the Clubhouse chats I was in, and they were talking about Mitch, and I was like, it makes sense. I mean, again, many people didn't value him as a starter right now, and it kind of makes sense. I mean, he has, I think, that opportunity and kind of can do those kind of things. He can do certain things that are real special as a quarterback, but again, he doesn't have it completely there. I think him sitting behind a guy like Josh Allen, who, we had similar issues with when he came into the league here as a pure passer, but could run the ball kind of like Mitch could, and kind of sit back and kind of learn how Josh Allen got to where he's at now, take that year, learn what it's to be like on a winning team, and that culture change that just obviously isn't there in Chicago, and take a chance next year on himself and maybe get a starting job that way. So again, he's a cool buy low if you want to just throw him on, as a 4th round pick, 5th round pick kind of guy. Because again, he's still young, so you could see a situation where he kind of, has another opportunity to kind of shine again in his career. So
I agree. It's just weird though, because you figure guys in his situation losing their job will want to go to a place where they could actually have a chance of being that quarterback. But like you said, he's probably looking for a philosophy kind of change. So good place, good environment for him.
Yeah, and we got our boy Kyle here. Kyle, man, what's going on, man? Thanks for tweeting in. Yes, it's actually true. Yes,
Yeah, that's great.
The most, I think, was Charles Sims, and if I'm not mistaken, it was he had, I think, 43 receptions. I think that was his high. And again, there's nowhere near to the Alvin Kamara type, but I think that was one of his best seasons. Again, that was, I think, 2015. I think his rookie or sophomore season where he had a guy like Charles Sims on the roster there. So, nice throwback there, Kyle. Appreciate that. So, all right. Let's finish up the quarterbacks here real quick. I'm just going to name off the rest here. Jacoby Brissett signed a 1 year, $5.7 million deal with the Dolphins. Tyrod Taylor signed up to 1 year, $12 million deal with Houston Texans.
Secure the bag.
Yes. Mike Lennon signed with the New York Giants. And Ryan Finley got traded with a 7th round pick to the Houston Texans for a 6th rounder. Are guys like Tyrod Taylor and Ryan Finley right now? Hold on one second. Kyle actually got it. 51 receptions in 2015. Thank you, Kyle. We appreciate that.
Yeah, I like that.
There's optimism that, Jameis can throw to a guy like Kamara right now. So that's why, obviously, Jameis is the better option for a guy like Alvin right now.
Hey, I'll take 51 over 25 from Taysom.
Exactly. So right now, and in terms of a dynasty perspective, Jibs, does Tyrod Taylor or Ryan Finley, they're probably on your waivers. Are these worth ads for people right now due to the Deshaun Watson situation going on?
They are worth ads, especially if they're on their waiver wire. I know I played the game last year with Tyler Taylor, with Justin Herbert. You figure you have a short leash with them, and obviously it was very short leash because he didn't play more than one game. But there's something going on there with all the discussion, with all the civil lawsuits and stuff. So, and they're going to leave. Deshaun Watson wants to leave the Texans, so you're figuring they're trying to ease up and try to get quarterbacks at a cheap price. You see Tyrod Taylor, you see the pick, the Ryan Finley kind of trade too. So it kind of makes me optimistic that the Texans kind of are getting Plan B in. So you should add them if they're on your waiver wire.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. They should definitely be ads just to throw on your bench. If you play in a Superflex league, any Superflex league, they should definitely be ads on your team right now because we just don't know. There's so many speculation with Deshaun Watson right now, with everything going on, and he did some pretty weird things. I just saw, I think, a post on it before. I'm not going to mention it here, but yeah, and we don't know
nice things.
Yes, we don't know how true these rumors are. We'll have to wait and see. And if they don't have Deshaun Watson via trade, or maybe he's suspended or something like that, Tyrod Taylor, we've seen him be kind of mobile, and we saw I think it was Ryan Finley who played pretty well against the Steelers that one time I think last year. Again, Steelers were kind of on a downfall at that point, but again, these are
Sunday Night Football.
Yes, that's Sunday Night Football. Yeah, basically. So I mean, these guys are just fill-ins, and I think they're good just to have on your bench and see what happens, see if maybe one of them becomes valuable, because the quarterback basically is ahead after the first 25 picks at that point. So, all right, switching over to running back now. We have a lot to go through still here. First one on the board here is Kenyon Drake. This one was a wild one. He signed a 2-year, $14.5 million deal with the Los Angeles Raiders here. And Jibs, what is your thoughts on this trade now, and how does it affect both him and Josh Jacobs right now?
Typically when you want to do a running back by committee, you get a good running back who's young, and then you get a nice veteran running back who's has some mileage on it, but you make it work. But then Kenyon Drake's been an exceptional fantasy player over the last 3 years, and Josh Jacobs is a budding star who has problems with consistency, points per game. We know he relies heavy on the touchdowns, but now that you have two seamlessly on par running backs, if you ask me, going side by side, I think it kind of will drain Josh Jacobs' value. He's not going to be I don't know his value in Dynasty right now, but I don't think he will be a top 24 pick, to say the least.
I think he went in the 4th round of our recent Dynasty startup. So
Superflex though.
Superflex, okay, yeah, but still, that's still pretty late, I feel for Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, so I'll say mid-third and third, and I think it will drain his value a bit.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. This was a big shocker to me, to be honest here, because Josh Jacobs was a rising star, and obviously we always had concerns about his overall can he catch the ball in the backfield? Is why aren't they doing that more often to him? He obviously is a premier back in this league, and we love that he was able to have almost 300 carries this past season. But why bring in Kenyon Drake? Well, John Gruden said that they can basically use Kenyon Drake all over the field here, and that has to scare us a little bit in terms of fantasy right now. Is that's going to cut these guys' value in half. In terms of Josh Jacobs, I think he's going to be more of that ground and pound up the middle guy, and he had 45 targets last year. I can't see him having more than 25 this year at best. I mean, that's why you bring a guy like Kenyon Drake in to kind of take over these targets, because of what he can do with his versatility in the passing game. And in terms of but Kenyon Drake, I guess it's the best second B option, because the way I see it is that if he didn't go back to Arizona, I didn't know a place where he would have had a starting role at this point of his career. I think with the Raiders and the way they obviously see Josh Jacobs at this point is that if the Raiders are behind in fantasy and in football games right now, do they stick to a guy like Kenyon Drake more often right now and use him because he can be worked in the running and passing game, where they know that Josh Jacobs on the field, he's probably not going to be catching the ball as much as a guy like Kenyon Drake would be able to in the backfield here now. So for me, at this point, I think Josh Jacobs is a pretty firm RB2 at this point. And a guy like Kenyon Drake, I think, is a pretty interesting buy right now because I think he could see a big role that people are saying, well, it's still Josh Jacobs' backfield. Let's not forget that. And I think if the way I'm thinking it now is that Kenyon Drake can kind of carve himself a pretty strong role. I mean, Devontae Booker had 93 carries last year, Jib. So it's possible. Anything is possible with these guys, but just not a great signing whatsoever. Really.
Yeah, I was trying to look up the splits. I know Kenyon Drake will have a role there. I don't know how many carries per game he'll get, but like I know there were certain games where Josh Jacobs was getting probably like significant carries, like we'll say 16 to 18 range. Maybe that drops 13 to 15, and then you see an uptick. Like I'm assuming Devontae Booker probably saw like maybe 7 to 8 carries per game. But to your point, Kenyon Drake can make a better impact in a receiving game.
Kenyon Drake's better than Devontae Booker. We can agree with that, yeah.
By far.
By far, yes. So, again, definitely hits a big hit to them, but definitely pretty good for Kenyon Drake right now. Right now I want to know your status on a guy like Chase Edmonds real quick here. Is he a starter right now?
He's a starter. He's a starter in my eye. Like I do kind of believe in him, but I'm just worried about
our mascot. He's upset about that. Sorry, guys. Our mascot likes to talk about Chase Edmonds. But yeah, and Chase Edmonds, I'll go my point real quick here is that, it's definitely a sign of confidence here. Again, I wouldn't overspend on him just yet because we haven't gone through the draft, but it's definitely bodes well that he has a better shot right now to possibly see that starting role unless the Cardinals happen to go running back in their first. I think they have picked 17 or 16 right now in the draft. So it'd be a little early for them to take a running back. So it's possible, but I don't hate Chase Edmonds right now. He's definitely interesting. Jibs needs another second here. That's okay. So we'll come back to the Chase Edmonds things real quick here, but heading over to our next topic here real quick, guys. Chris Carson. And this one was definitely somewhat of a surprise as well, kind of, but into a better version here, honestly, because Chris Carson didn't get the franchise tag, which I didn't expect him to get the franchise tag, but I didn't expect him to come back to Seattle. I thought his situation was like, let's go to Miami, let's go to New York, whatever. But him going back there kind of, I think, seals his value as a solid high-end RB2 right now in terms of fantasy. He got a 2-year, $24.25 million deal with Seattle, and I think he knows the system. They want to run the ball more. He has that, I said, high-end RB2 value as long as he can stay healthy, and that's the biggest thing right now. So, Jibs, are you back? Jibs is not back yet, guys. So I'll continue going. So, in terms of Chris Carson right now, that now that he's signed, people were talking about Rashard Penny, we're talking about DJ Dallas, maybe Travis Homer as guys to kind of raise up and to kind of see more of a production now. And I think that kind of goes away here now. I think Penny offers some kind of, buy low value right now because we know Chris Carson can't stay healthy for 16 games. He just hasn't done it yet. And I think Penny, as long as he's healthy going into next year, he was a former first-round pick. They got to give him some opportunity for a role here right now. So I think if you go out and buy him for like a fourth rounder and just see what happens, because they want to run the ball. They're not going to run the ball with Chris Carson the whole time. They're going to get someone else involved here. And I think Penny, as long as he's healthy, has some talent to him, which is why he was a first-round pick. Well, he shouldn't have been a first-round pick, but he offers you some kind of buy low value right now while, Chris Carson still continues to offer you that RB2 value. So,
okay. All right. Number one, Chase Edmonds. I think even with the Drake leaving, he showed he could be a starting running back. Like he could catch the ball very efficiently. We saw he can handle a light load rushing the ball. Like I still have like trepidation. I think Arizona is going to still make a move in the draft probably to acquire another running back possibly. But as we stand right now, he's the last guy left in Arizona besides Eno Benjamin. So hopefully I believe what Cliff Kingsbury says, and he's the starter in their eyes. And Chris Carson, you hit your investment paid off, Steve, man. You've been holding on to this guy for like 2 years.
I traded him everywhere.
But still, like I thought he would be kicked out of town, and he's still there. He got a nice deal. I wouldn't say like crazy, but for a veteran at his level and with the injury history that he had, it's a good deal. Like you kind of mentioned before, like the running backs in that core in that group is just they're not like guys. They're basically just some guys. Like they're not like anything spectacular. Chris Carson's only thing that's getting Chris Carson's way is him and his health. Like we know if he plays 15, 16 games, this guy could get over 200 carries and be closer to that top 12 high end RB2. But for me, this year, fantasy, regular season, and dynasty this season, I'm going to approach it like I think the guy could perform as a high end, or not high end, a middling RB2. And it's not like saying middling's bad. Like I think he has everything he could do. He could catch the ball a little bit as well. So I'll take Chris Carson at a discount due to his age in dynasty startup drafts, and I like him in redraft a lot this year.
Yeah, definitely. As you guys saw, Kenyon Drake actually made more money to be the backup than Chris Carson made it to be actually the starter. So that tells you what the Raiders are doing right now. So heading over to some other running backs here real quick here. Carlos Hyde signed a 2-year, $2.5 million deal with the Jags. Does that hurt a guy like James Robinson's value a lot, Jibs, having a guy like Carlos Hyde there?
Yeah.
It
only hurt Nick Chubb, and then guess what happened? Nick Chubb broke out, and he got traded.
That's true. So you're saying it does hurt?
No. I'm saying he's just holding it down, just clipboards coming in third down whenever you just need it. Nothing crazy.
Yeah, no. I mean, I already had a guy like James Robinson's value kind of down, but I think Carlos Hyde, it was familiarity with him and Urban Meyer back in their days in Ohio State, and I think it's just a change of pace guy, kind of come in and fill in so that James Robinson doesn't carry the whole workload, which I think at that point is not bad. So again, he's nothing more than an RB4. So, but again, he has that handcuff value if something happens to James Robinson. But James Robinson is still we consider somewhat of a low end RB1 right now in terms of fantasy. So,
all right, roster spot and you got Robinson. You think you might want to
trade him away to you?
No, just look into it. Get your little handcuff.
It's possible. Yeah. All right, a couple others. Phil Lindsay signed a one-year deal, $3.25 million deal with Houston. Do you want anyone in this Houston's backfield now?
Yeah.
Do you?
No.
Okay. No. Okay.
Not really. It's a mess. That I can't stand 2 running back by committee groups. You could throw in 3 of them. I know you got 2 older gentlemen, so at least 31 and 32 years old, Mark Ingram and David Johnson, and Lindsay is a younger back, but still, I don't know what they're doing there.
Yeah, the way I see it is, I really don't want this backfield. I think if anything you take away from it, I think that David Johnson's going to see any passing down work. He's probably the best out of the 3 of them by far. I think you got like Mark Ingram. I don't know if he makes the rosters, to be honest, with a guy like Philip Lindsay coming in. He may just be like a camp veteran guy, and he may get cut before the season. Philip Lindsay could be the same way if they don't see what Philip Lindsay see more than what we saw from him last year. He could be a cut guy too. Both those guys, I think, are basically like RB3s or worse at this point, if anything. I mean, I think David Johnson's still the guy you want to own because of his value in the passing game here. So
I would agree. I think they're just filling up a roster.
Yes, let's see. Kyle said Jonathan Ward is in Arizona as well. Yes, he is, and so is Ito Benjamin too. So I like that, Kyle. Keep Jonathan Ward on your mind as well too. Yes, he's just another fill-in guy who never know. So. All right, so let's continue going here. Devontae Booker. Let's see here. Devontae Booker signed a 2-year deal, $2.5 million deal with the Giants. Definitely a pretty interesting buy low option, personally, Jibs, just because I think, we know Saquon's recent history. He played well when he got this chance to do something decent. So just a good buy low there.
Yeah, and then you also saw that with the injury history included, we saw literally running backs that we kind of wrote off from our past fantasy experiences come up and perform, and we're adding them off the waiver wire in redraft league. So definitely a guy that Barkley owners want to kind of grab up just in case, and it's a speculative kind of guy you want to at the end of your bench.
Yeah, definitely. And then next one, Mike Boone signed a 2-year, $2.8 million deal with the Broncos here. Is that anything interesting for you? He was always like a special team guy, and then when he plays week 17, he goes off for 100 yards.
I don't know. Well, not week 16 is where it counts, Steve, and
week 16
perform that day. But Yeah, he has some intrigue just because we know Philip Lindsay had a role in that offense, and I'm about to pull his stats up right now, but I don't think Melvin Gordon is just going to take all the rushing load over. I don't know who else they still have Royce Freeman there, who was their kind of special teams guy too. So last year, Philip Lindsay rushed the ball over 118 times, 500 yards, a touchdown. Nothing spectacular, but he can have a role there. And I would think like if they're going to bring him in there for that price, that he could have a significant play or role if Melvin Gordon got injured.
Yeah, no. I think if he's off I think he's on waivers everywhere, guys. He should just be added and just see what happens with him because I mean they could add it back in, but I mean Mike Boom had opportunity at times to kind of do something decent, and he's shown it at times there. And definitely no Philip Lindsay now. I think he kind of jumps. I think Royce Freeman, even if Royce Freeman there, he could also a guy you could buy low on too. But I think Mike Boom is you can just get him for free on waivers and kind of throw him on your end of your bench and see if maybe he can kind of do something for you at some point during the season. So. Malcolm Brown signed a 1-year deal, $1.75 million with the Dolphins. Personally, I don't really know where that value is there. It depends if Miami drafts somebody. If Miami doesn't, I think he finds value that way. I really do believe Miami drafts a running back, though, personally as a Dolphins fan and what I've been hearing. But, yeah, I don't really understand the buy in that. They did go out and sign him early, so that could be interesting.
Flores likes veterans.
He sure does, I think.
Presence, but then he doesn't play him.
He is the veteran guy, so I mean, it could be more of a special teams kind of ad. So, all right, and just quick mentions here: Lamar Miller signed a 1-year, $1.05 million deal with the Washington Football Team. Darrell Williams re-signed for a 1-year, $2.1 million deal to stay with the Kansas City Chiefs. Samaj P. Ryan signed a 2-year, $3.3 million deal with the Bengals to stay there. Theo Riddick also signed back with the Raiders for a $1.75 million deal with the Raiders. So that's an interesting one. But let's go over the main topic of the day because that's where the big juice is here now, guys. And it's the wide receivers. There's so many wide receivers in this talk here. So we're going to try to go through them as quick as possible here now. First one up is Corey Davis. He's one of the first few to sign here. And he signed a 3-year, $37.5 million deal with the Jets. Now, does this help raise his value? Do you expect to see more out of Corey Davis now with New York?
Well, I think his value rose just through last year's campaign, but seeing that he went to the Jets, I like my free agents to go where opportunity is there. And I know Brashard Perriman left the Jets. They still have Denzel Mims, a growing receiver, not that much talent in the tight end position, no talent at all within the running back position. So I think he will have to make a splash. I know Jamison Crowder's still there. He's a safety valve for Sam Darnold if he's a quarterback at this point, but I liked what he did last year, Corey Davis' resurgence in Tennessee, and I just believe that even though the coaching staff changed, I think Corey Davis could find his way into that Robbie Anderson role or that piece that Sam Darnold was missing last year and flourish. So at the end of the day, like maybe during the course of the season, low end wide receiver 3, as you're like putting your rankings up at the start of the week or something like that.
Yeah, I agree with you. Honestly, I think Corey Davis should be looked at as a wide receiver 3. If someone looks at him higher than that and wants to trade for it, definitely do that. But he's probably going to see 100 targets, I think, in this offense unless they bring somebody else in of significance. They don't have a really strong run game right now. The defense is rebuilding right now. And they were 20th in the league last year in passing plays. I expect that to be a bit higher. I expect them not to be in the bottom 25. I expect them to actually fight a little bit in this offense here now that they have, I guess, a younger core. Not a younger core, but like a more talent in the receiving game now. Especially with a guy like Corey Davis, who, again, possession type of wide receiver who can catch a lot of balls and do things after the catch. And I think that's what Sam Darnold really helps him kind of make that next step here. So I think guy like Corey Davis, I think he signed a great deal there to go to the New York Jets, and I love the option there with a guy like Corey Davis. So, and I didn't put my little things up here, but going over the next group here now. Nelson Aguilar signed a 2-year, $22 million deal with the Patriots. He actually was the first wide receiver to sign with a team, and then Kendrick Bourne, 3-year, $15 million deal with the Patriots here. Do these guys interest you? And then in New England?
Oh, start with Nelson Aguilar. The legend continues. I believe he could give the Patriots a deep threat, like Cam had it when he was in Carolina during his MVP seasons, but I don't see him making a significant impact in 2021. And then Kendrick Bourne, for me, personally, I think he's an insurance policy down the road for Julian Edelman. But just like Nelson Aguilar, I don't see him making a significant impact in 2021. Just based off Cam's performance, I know COVID and all that good stuff. I just don't think the passing, there's going to be like a lot of volume for all these guys in general, and you still have Myers, you still have N'Keal Harry. How long he's going to be on the team for, we don't know. And you still have Edelman. So, and you got the 2 tight ends. That's the only reason why I'm pretty much down on these 2 wide receiver signings.
Yeah, honestly, I'm in the same boat here. I mean, Nelson Aguilar, I think these guys work for the team. And you give Nelson Aguilar a guy who can kind of go downfield. He kind of what he was doing last year with the Raiders. Kendrick Bourne's a little bit bigger of a wide receiver. And I think he's just a pure upgrade right now over guys like N'Keal Harry right now to kind of join the starting lineup. Again, I don't know where they're going to stand in this offense here now. Again, we have the 2 tight ends we'll talk about in a little bit. Julian Edelman's still there. Jacoby Meyer came on strong at the end of last season. I see Nelson Aguilar nothing more than a wide receiver 3 at best, and that's at best. Kendrick Bourne, I think he'll have his moments at times where he catches a touchdown for like 40 yards. Again, he's nothing that I'm changing my mind on when it comes to him. I think he's in the exact same situation he was when he was in San Francisco this past season here. And again, does Cam throw the ball that much? I mean, I don't know if he's going to throw the ball 600 times or he gets over 4,000 yards. I just don't really see it happening. And having all these guys kind of see fantasy value, I think Nelson Aguilar has the best chance because of his ability to kind of go deep. But it's really something that I don't want any part of in this offense right now. So let's see here. What are you guys thinking? Nelson Aguilar, Jacoby Myers as the starters in New England? Jibs? Jibs is on mute. Well, that's a great question, Kyle. I would assume so, as long as, I mean, I don't know. If Julian Edelman's healthy, I would assume he's going to be one of the starters. So that's kind of how I see it, honestly.
I'll go Nelson, Edelman in the slot, and
Myers.
Myers.
I don't think Kendrick Bourne beats out Myers. Honestly, I think Myers is a better talent and is still growing into his role as a wide receiver, to be honest. I think they just did this because Bill wanted players to have on this team. I think this ends, N'Keal Harry's time. They had the bigger wide receiver here. They had Demarius Byrd. They wanted to replace what they had and give them more production in that wide receiver core than what they were giving last season. So that's kind of how I see it. I think Meyer is still the starter over a guy like Kendrick Bourne right now. So great question, Kyle. Thank you, sir. All right. Heading over to the next signing here, Emmanuel Sanders. This was an interesting. Signed a 1-year deal, $6 million deal with the Buffalo Bills, Jibs. Do you like this signing, and does it affect a guy like Gabriel Davis, who we expect to kind of break out?
I think it will affect Gabriel Davis in a way, just because I know John Brown had a role in the offense for many years, and last year he was kind of plagued by injury, which kind of brought down his total target amount. But Gabriel Davis has 2 things working with him. Obviously, he's still working up that wide receiver depth chart, and I think he could probably match or exceeds Sanders' expected target share or target volume this year by a little bit, but still the main cog in the room is going to be Stephon Diggs. The guy had 30% target share. And then Cole Beasley, you can't sleep on him either. He had the second most targets on the team. I think it was just over 17%. So as long as Cole Beasley is still getting catches and all that good stuff, I think it's still going to be hard, even with Emmanuel Sanders signing, for Gabriel Davis to make an impact.
Yeah, no, I don't think that at all, Chips. For me personally, I mean, I don't know I think it was more of a, Cole Beasley's coming off a broken tibia that he suffered in the playoffs there. We don't know if a guy like Gabriel Davis is going to actually take the next step. We assume he's going to. So I think it's more of a, he's just another guy to put on the roster here to kind of give another veteran presence to kind of take that next step here. So I don't see it being a big issue. I think Gabriel Davis is still going to be the number 2 on this team, but I think Sanders kind of goes in and out with a guy like Cole Beasley, who's older right now. We all know he's like almost 32 years old. He's not a young guy anymore. So
Sanders is 34.
Okay, they're going to kind of swoop back and forth, man. Like there's some in and out of the lineup at times, depending on what they plan on doing. And that's kind of how I see it with a guy like Emmanuel Sanders right now. So,
and even with Sanders' age, he still has gotten over 820 yards over the last 3 seasons.
It's not going to happen this year. I can't. There's too many weapons there to have him do that. So, all right, on to the next one now. John Brown signed a 1-year, $3.75 million deal with the Raiders after getting released from the Buffalo Bills here. Do you like this signing for John Brown and his value?
Not really.
I don't hate it, honestly.
Well, it's not bad. It's not good. I think he could go over there and be a veteran presence for their young wide receiver skill group. I know they have Braylon Edwards, tall receiver. Maybe he could teach Henry Ruggs a thing or two, using his speed to his advantage. And Nelson Aguilar left, so we know Nelson Aguilar was kind of like Derek Carr's right-hand man at times last year, and he could easily fill that void up in the offense. So, I don't think John Brown's losing, significant value, but he's not gaining value either. So, I think it's like a lateral kind of move for his value to be sure about that.
Yeah, no, honestly, I think it is. I think John Brown, him in Las Vegas, it's a lateral move. I completely agree with you, Jibs, on that. I mean, it's basically him, same role that he's going to be in now, and if he can stay healthy, he can be a wide receiver 3 in fantasy. But if he doesn't stay healthy, he doesn't. Again, I'm not really trying to buy into him, but if I get him from cheap, I won't hate it. I mean, he could see value there. He could see somewhat similar. I think Nelson Aguilar finished as a top 36 wide receiver this past season, so John Brown could do that in this offense here. I mean, Henry Ruggs, I don't think he still fits this offense well. I mean, Braylon Edwards, we don't know if he's going to take that step to see someone relevant. And outside of Darren Waller, I mean, it's up for grabs as the number 2 pass catcher right now. So John Brown could see himself a strong role. And he signed relatively quickly after getting released, too. He got released next day. I think he signed with the Raiders. So, I mean, they obviously liked him and brought him in. So, all right, on to the next one here. The next one's Marvin Jones signed a 2-year, $25.5 million deal with the Jacksonville Jaguars to be that third guy on this wide receiver core here, Jibs. How do you like this signing, and does it impact these wide receivers that are already there in a bad way?
I think it impacts the wide receivers that are there in the bad way. A lot of them are expiring wide receivers that are young. Looks like Colin Johnson, Laviska Shenault. We know DJ Chark's there, and he already has an established role in the offense. So I think it might hurt those guys' progression. I was kind of high on Shenault until this signing, and I also thought Chark would be off the team, but I also think whoever the quarterback will be, cough, Trevor Lawrence, it gives him a deep threat and a guy with sure hands. I know Chark is also kind of profiles as that player, but if you have 2 of those guys on the outside and then you have Shenault, a utility player on the inside, I think it gives your offense a unique edge for Lawrence. But it kind of stinks, though, because I thought Marvin Jones would go to a better situation, at least where he doesn't have to be kind of buried in a depth chart per se.
Yeah, I don't hate it for Marvin Jones. I think it works for Marvin Jones to be somewhat a not reliable, but a relevant wide receiver 3 still in fantasy. We got another comment here. Kyle, here we go. Here you go. Marvin Jones could be top 3 on the Jags in targets.
That's a damn fact. He can.
Absolutely can. I don't see why not. Yeah, absolutely. I honestly, he could be number 1 in targets. That's how I think Marvin Jones could be in this offense, at least the first year. I personally, when it comes to Trevor Lawrence, there's things about his game I don't like, and I don't think it really works 100% well with a guy like DJ Chark. And Shenault, again, he's a question mark still. He's been injured and banged up throughout his career here, and he was injured last season here. So I think Marvin Jones could provide a stable wide receiver veteran for a guy like Trevor Lawrence right now, and be top 3 on the Jags, in targets. He can be number 1 on the Jags in targets right now for this coming season here. So that's kind of how I value him, that he could be a pretty strong and consistent wide receiver 3 on this rising young Jags team right now.
And I'll also back Kyle's point, just due to top 3. We also had Keelan Cole there last year, a guy that was off the waiver wires and playing some role for fantasy starts in the early part of the season. He's on the Jets now. So right now you have Chark, you have Shenault, the other 2 players who are leading targets. So you basically have 90 targets up for grab. That could easily be Marvin Jones, and we've seen what he can do as a touchdown grabbing machine. So he has a pretty locked in, ready, loaded role.
Absolutely. All right, heading over to the next guy here now, AJ Green. This was a big surprise to me, honestly. He signed a 1-year, $6 million deal with the Cardinals here now. Do you like his signing there, Jibs?
I like it for his career. Don't like it for fantasy. I know, like last year we had DeAndre Hopkins. He was pretty much like the only like viable cog, and then you had second fiddles, whatever it was, Larry Fitzgerald one week or
Christian Kirk.
I know Christian Kirk did a splash play, but I feel like there was someone else too. Andy Isabella.
That's the guy.
Yeah. So like they make splash plays every so often, and now Larry Fitzgerald, that he's yet to retire. You still have Christian Kirk. There's a lot of chefs in that kitchen, but maybe AJ Green's trying to play into a bounce back kind of role, just kind of get his sea legs back. But I don't really like it for Dynasty.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like it in any format right now. I mean, I take a waiver on him in terms of redrafts. I just don't know how many targets he's going to see in this offense here, because Larry is a free agent and he could be back, so we really don't know about that yet. But I think it benefits a guy like Christian Kirk, who probably would move to the slot and function out of that way. But I don't know if AJ Green's going to see a consistent amount of targets on a week-to-week basis because of a guy like DeAndre Hopkins. The good thing to know about him is that he had the 7th most deep targets last year, and Murray had the 5th most deep passes last year. So if they can find a way to build some chemistry, he could be a steal in a lot of drafts right now in terms of trades or whatever it may be. But it depends if he still has it, and we don't know. Remember, he took off 2019 off, and he played 2020 off after a year off with no chemistry with his current quarterback, Joe Burrow, at the time. So maybe he needed another year to really get himself going again. I mean, it's a long shot. He's over 32 now. I think he's going to be 33 by the time the season starts. We've known, wide receivers there to be successful at that older age. But, again, he's nothing more than a buy. I think, honestly, a buy low option. And unless someone wants to buy big on him, that's on the ways, and I kind of see with him. So.
Yeah, and there's the last point. Just if Larry Fitzgerald stays there, I know his production probably will go down. But Larry Fitzgerald had 70 targets last year. You can expect that for AJ Green.
That's about it.
Yeah, it's about it. But the worst case scenario, if they all are there, like Andy Isabella only had 30 targets, just a little less than 30 targets. So you could probably see like a 40, 50 kind of role for him if all 4 of them are there.
Yeah, I can't see him having anything more than 70 targets next season. So. All right, on to the next guy, and this was a fun one. Curtis Samuel signed a 3-year, $34.5 million deal with the Washington football team. Are you expecting a big intake of production from a guy like Curtis Samuel now?
Yes, I am.
Ooh.
Oh, not like big intake, but like I'm just like honestly, Steve, you should have just started with this deal with the wide receiver selection.
Probably.
Like this Curtis Samuel deal was my favorite. And he had a good year last year where he kind of broke out as the 3rd wide receiver on that offense. And literally over 1,000 yards. At some times we thought he was probably better than Robbie Anderson and the DJ Moore. You had 3 heads in that offense. And when Christian McCaffrey was there, he was the 4th best player on his team, but still had a productive season. Now you're going to send him to the Washington football team, marry him with his old coach, reunite him with like an old college friend. You have a gritty veteran quarterback who likes to sling the ball. And literally, the Washington football team's been looking for a second option since Jamison Crowder left, to be honest. They found Scary Terry, and they need to give Scary Terry some help. And like I stated before, just Curtis Samuel, he has such a unique kind of play style. You could use him in many facets of the game. I think he would be a reliable source for fantasy points, and I see him having a role immediately in this offense. Obviously, he's going to have to take some shine away from people like Logan Thomas or J.D. McKissick last year. But guys like Cam Sims and Steve Sims, get them out of there. Take all their shit away. We're going with freaking Curtis Samuel this year, boy. Get him. Not 100 targets.
I mean, I love it for the Washington football team. I think he fits this offense perfectly. But in terms of fantasy right now, I don't know if I see him doing much better than what he had this past season. I mean, he had he had 97 targets, 77 receptions, 850 yards, and 3 touchdowns. I don't know if he's going to see a bigger workload than that this coming season. Like, I don't know if he's going to be a 1,200-yard, 8-touchdown kind of guy. That's how I kind of see Curtis Samuel. I don't see him in that nature. I think he's a solid, high-end wide receiver 3 who can be very consistent. But I think there are some people out there who are seeing this signing and like, wow, Curtis Samuel's about to go off. And I'm not seeing it that way. I think what he did this season is what he can do over the next couple of seasons and be really good for us. So I think with me, when it comes to Curtis Samuel, if someone's willing to pay good money, like a low-end first, a high-end second possibly, I'd sell him off, honestly, because I think you could get a guy like Rashad Bateman, later in this draft here and use him as your number 1 wide receiver who can truly be a wide receiver 1, where Curtis Samuel, I think he's a strong 2, and that's really what he is. So I kind of on the sell will come to Curtis Samuel, but it's a great signing for them, so I'm not going to take it away from them. So, and we have Kyle's back again. 100 targets minimum for Samuels or Washington.
Preach.
No, I mean, he's going to have 100 targets. I mean, he had 90, what do you have, 97? So is he going to see 20-plus more targets? I don't think so, but he can probably see another 10 at least and be over 100. No doubt about that, Kyle. He's going to have 100 targets at least, but I just can't see him taking that next step. So, all right. Heading over to the next team here now. Where are we at here? All right. Will Fuller signed a 1-year deal with the Miami Dolphins up to $10 million. How do you like Will Fuller here in Miami?
I don't like it.
Details, sir? Details?
Well, basically, I just think Tua is not going to be able to kind of have him rise up to that kind of wide receiver 1 production that we were having with them last year through 11 games. I believe at one point he was wide receiver 5 or 6 during that time, and then obviously he got suspended and you kind of don't get points, so you lose your ranking, and he finished as a wide receiver 3 in fantasy. But for the Miami sake in real life, I do like the signing. It obviously allows Tua to have more open passing lanes. You have a legitimate deep threat who could take the top off. You still have Devontae Parker, who is an elite route runner who could catch the ball in the short flats. And then Preston Williams is your big kind of guy who could catch the ball. And if he stays healthy, yes. But Steve, I like the point you made offline. I believe when the signing happened, you're like, oh my God, I don't know, man. Our turf's kind of bad. Your wide receivers always get messed up. I don't know if it's a hammy. I'm going to write off the knees and the shoulders and all that. But those turf injuries that occur with your skill weapons, like your King Grant and your Albert Wilson, over the last 2 years, it kind of gives me trepidation. So that's a couple points why I just don't like the signing for fantasy.
Yeah, I don't. In terms of Miami, it's a great signing. I think it helps them stretch the field open with a guy like Will Fuller, and Will Fuller will do that. And it could also help grow a guy like Ryan Tannehill's confidence. In college, Ryan Tannehill was averaging 11.3 yards per attempt in college, and then this past season, his yards per attempt was 6.9. So maybe this helps Tua get to another level in his game here that people are saying that he doesn't have right now. But in terms of Will Fuller in Miami, I just don't see him being what he was, like Jibs mentioned last year, as a wide receiver 5 at times. The field is a little messed up at times. He's playing in the dome, so that's something to think of there. And again, he's missing 1 game already to start the season here now, and I don't think he's going to see enough target downfield to be somewhat relevant. So that's kind of how I see him. I think he's a boomer bust wide receiver 3, and a lot of these guys signing are wide receiver 3s in this league. Not many people jumped into that level 2 tier, so that's kind of why I see a guy like Will Fuller right now. So head over to the next signing here. Juju Smith-Schuster signed a 1-year, $10 million deal. A guy who is currently in round 8 of our Dynasty startup, not drafted yet. I almost had him in the round 4, but chose not to do that. So what does Juju do here in Pittsburgh, and how does that affect everyone else around him?
What does Juju do in Pittsburgh? You know what you're going to do? You're going to go up, open your fantasy app, and you're going to reference this year, 2020. See that?
It's backwards. It's backwards. 2020, guys.
Yeah, 2020. Look at 2020. I did it backwards, but you might as well say it's backwards for his production, just based off his first 2 years with the elite receiver like Antonio Brown. He got more weapons. They all had a decent target share. I believe Juju, I think he was pacing with targets. I can't really remember, but still, like he's a low A-dot receiver. The role just kind of diminished like his completely value, and you're just gonna have a headache. Like we had 3 wide receiver in the rankings. You had like legitimate like 2 low-end wide receiver 2s, and then you had a high-end wide receiver 3 every week. You never know which one's going to be. And yes, Juju kind of benefited from touchdowns last year, but honestly, I don't know. Juju's not going to be that guy with me. I still believe that he's going to be leaking value, and honestly, the only thing that's holding his dynasty value up right now is age.
That's a great point, Chibs. I wasn't in here because I accidentally exited out of my.
I was trying to hold up the speaking.
I appreciate it. Didn't get on the podcast recording though, but everyone listening heard your great take on it. So, unfortunately, we're going to have to go right past it there. So, but people heard you. All right, yeah. When it comes to Juju, guys, I mean, this is what Jib said, but to me, it makes him, Deontay Johnson, and Chase Claypool all the low-end wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 values. Juju's obviously a better in a more full-point PPR league. And again, if he falls to round 8 of your dynasty draft, he's probably a decent value at that point. So unless Jibs takes him right now, I will probably end up trying to take him.
Oh, my God. Dude, I have so many Juju shares. I don't want another one.
And the reason I don't want it personally is that I think he could be a wide receiver 1 still. But again, there's still that issue that if he never gets back to that level there and he hasn't shown in the last 2 seasons, again, you can make excuses for a guy like Juju consistently. But again, there's that issue that why didn't he sign for a bigger deal? And again, it could have been everything that's going on right now with the finances in the NFL, but I'm just nervous he's never going to see that true value that we really want from him. And no one wants to see want Juju either. So it makes him that you have him, you're holding on to him for his entire career at this point. So that's what scares me when it comes to Juju. So, all right, heading over to the last wide receiver we're going to talk about today. It's Kenny G. Signed a 4-year, $74 million deal with the New York Giants. Jibs, how are you liking Kenny G in New York?
Oh, I'm an Eagles fan. I hate it. Personally.
In terms of fantasy, though, how do we like it?
Same thing we said about Marvin Jones. I think it's a very lateral move, but it's multifaceted. Just because yes, he's going to the New York Giants. They've been like hounding for an alpha dog since Odell Beckham left. Yes, he got the smooth paycheck. Like I think that like half these guys on the list wish they got a 4-year contract doing all these 1-year deals. But like the New York Giants, I know the offensive skill weapons aren't like very like I would say household names. They're household names, but they're not like very proficient at what they're doing. You have Sterling Shepard, you still have Darius Slayton, you have Evan Ingram, you have Saquon Barkley, right? You added Kenny G, so you have a crowded weapon skill position group rather than just Marvin Jones, Kenny Galladay, T.J. Hawkinson, and then bum running backs, right? And then the quarterback situation. Personally, I think Matt Stafford, when he played, better quarterback than Daniel Jones at this point. So like his fantasy production is going to be highly relied on Daniel Jones, who I'm not really like sold on. So for me personally, in the NFL like aspect, I think the Giants kind of went all in on this Daniel Jones pick. They're getting a big body receiver who could go up and grab the ball, and hopefully he's going to make an impact in the offense. Like it's just how far would Daniel Jones lead him? We know he could lead the league in touchdowns. He has everything to be that wide receiver 1, but can the Giants allow him to be that wide receiver 1 that we all wanted him to be going into last year?
Yeah, and that's still the biggest question. I think he lost his value as a true wide receiver 1. I think with Daniel Jones, people underestimate that he's really not a fantastic quarterback, but he does some things really well, and what he does well is his deep ball. He's got a pretty strong deep ball. He was 7th last year in deep ball completions. And again, what Kenny G does is kind of go downfield and you throw it to him, he'll go up and get it a lot of the times here. And I think that will work well with this offense here. And I think that's why it's a good fit for where he's at with New York here. He's that true number 1 wide receiver for the Giants that can have Slayton and than Sterling Shepard in their more natural positions here, especially with Golden Tate on, which is good. But in terms of fantasy, I think you're looking at a pretty solid wide receiver 2 still. And again, everyone, I know someone mentioned this on one of the podcasts I listened to that, yes, this definitely helps Daniel Jones more than it helps Kenny G. But you know what, Kyle? I don't want to say it's true, but people were talking about, we talked about Stephon Diggs helping Josh Allen more than Josh Allen helping Stephon Diggs last year. And we saw, a mixture of both this past season. I think you're right, though. It definitely helps Daniel Jones in terms of what he's getting as a wide receiver here now. But Jibs,
you can help him all he wants, but you're gonna fumble the ball anyway.
That's the biggest issue. If he can hold on to the ball and have stop the pressure from getting into him, that will keep Kenny G from being a wide receiver 1. I think. I think he'll be a pretty solid wide receiver 2, and I think that's what you're going to get out of him. He's going to have some bad weeks, but he's going to have some really big weeks where he goes over 100 and a touchdown, and that's kind of what you see from a guy like Jimmy G right now. And
I left at one point. It was we also seen Kenny G play with second stringers and third stringers and perform. So it could be. There's so many facets of it. You could be this in the spectrum or that in the spectrum. So he's an interesting player in dynasty leagues right now. Gotcha.
And we're going to talk really quick about one more guy. Actually, no, we're not. Keelan Cole, 1-year deal with the Jets. David Moore signed a 2-year deal with the Carolina Panthers. Rashard Higgins re-signed for 1 year with the Cleveland Browns. And your boy Deshaun Jackson signed a deal with the Rams.
He just wants to go back to LA. That's it.
Okay. Is there any value there, or is it just stay far away from me?
Jared Goff ain't getting down there for him.
No. Matthew Stafford.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Jesus.
I don't want it though, but
there's value week 1. Yes. Other than that, he's going to be out for plenty of time during the season, so you could shop him around maybe if someone's kind of feeling a little intrigued if they're wide receiver short, but not really for me.
Yeah, no, definitely me neither. Philip Dorsett signed a 1-year deal with the Jags. John Ross signed a 1-year deal with the Giants. Zay Jones re-signed a 1-year deal with the Raiders. Dante Moncrief, Alex Eckerson, and Chris Conley forming the trio of wide receiver 4s assigned with the Houston Texans. So the Houston likes to sign these wide receiver 4s this offseason. So
Super Scrubs unite.
Yeah, Super Scrubs unite. That's kind of how I see it. So, all right, who are the wide receivers, the tight ends, real quick. Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry both signed with the New England Patriots here, which was a huge surprise because we all loved Jonnu Smith a day ago, and then Hunter Henry signs. What do you make of these two here now, Jibs?
Oh, my God. It's a disaster. It's a calamity. It's really bad. I was very hopeful of Jonnu Smith, and then you saw the Hunter Henry news maybe half a day later or whatever. And now I just think they're both going to be tight end 2s, sucking away value. There's not enough volume for tight ends as it is, and you got 2 of them. 2 good ones.
Yeah, it definitely hurt a lot, honestly, to see both these guys because they could have top 8 options, I think, if they signed by themselves to different teams, but they decided to work together. Now, I've heard things that Hunter Henry is going to be the inline tight end and Jonnu Smith is going to be the guy who runs out and does more things on that end, more on the outside. But then, Jonnu Smith, Bill Belichick raves about his blocking and his yards after the catch. And then, Hunter Henry was, he played the 6th most slot snaps last year as terms of a tight end position. So I think with these two, I think they're both going to be, low-end tight end 1s, high-end tight end 2s that I think you can kind of mix and match at times. Will Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry both be 1-2 in the Patriots targets, Jibs? Honestly, Kyle, it's possible. I don't see why not, to be honest. I think we all know Cam Newton has been good when it comes to tight ends. They very much could be the 1-2. If anything, they're going to probably be the 2 and 3, and then maybe a wide receiver ends up being the actual 1 or in the 2 there somewhere. But I think one of these 2 ends up being at least the number 1 in targets. But back-to-back, it's really possible, to be honest. I don't see why not.
Oh, sorry. I was just focused on, I guess the Giants signed Adoree Jackson from the Titans. Oh,
they sure did. Yes, they did.
And that deal. Where they got this money, yo?
I don't know. Team's got money somewhere, Jibs. I know. That's a great question there, Kyle. Do you agree, Jibs, with the tweet?
Can Jonnu and Hunter be 1 and 2? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Very much so. Very much so. Yes. All right. So, yeah, I think these guys, I think they're buy lows, honestly. If people have really turned off by the situation here, I think they're buys because if Cam's not the starter this year, or at least this year, he may not be the starter the next year, and that could open up with a new quarterback possibly going to 2022. And I think this is the time to buy low on these guys, especially if we don't believe Cam's going to be there next year. So, all right. And then last big point here, Gronk signs a 1-year deal with the Bucks. How do you feel about this, Chips?
I'm kind of hurt on my OJ Howard shares.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely reassures us that I think Gronk will have some kind of role and some kind of fantasy value this season. It just depends how much. You know, OJ torn Achilles last year. That's hard to come back from, especially for a big guy like that. I think Gronk keeps himself in the conversation as a tight end 1, top 10 tight end probably, as long as OJ Howard doesn't come back as quickly as maybe people may think. So I don't hate it.
I hate it. Bring the crew back.
Yeah. Bring the crew together. All right, a couple others here. Jared Cook signs a 1-year deal with the Chargers. Kyle Rudolph signs a 2-year deal with the Giants. Darren Arnold signs a 2-year deal with the Panthers. Gerald Everett signs a 1-year deal with the Seattle Seahawks. Anthony Frischker signs a 1-year deal with the Titans. Frischker. Does any of these guys stand out to you? Somebody of interest?
Frischker.
All right, is it a nice buy low option?
Yeah, I knew last year, like he kind of came on as the season progressed, and Jonnu Smith kind of went into the dust, just catching touchdowns when they're all like on the 2-yard line or running it in. So I think he has a viable. He has the best shot out of the whole group to be a significant player in 2021. Other than that, maybe Jared Cook. He just never seems to go away. Maybe he could be Justin Herbert's new guy, but still. Really don't like the Kyle Rudolph signing. I hate that one.
No, I don't like it. He spent
$1 million and they're signing this. Bro.
Yeah, I mean, Evan Ingram has to be gone at that. I mean, I don't know. But, Anthony Frischker, I think I like that deal the best. I think you can buy low on him and be somewhat relevant. I don't hate the Darren Arnold sign-in. He kind of showed flashes in Arizona, and if they actually use a tight end right this time, maybe he sees some – they obviously didn't do it this past season, but it's definitely could show some value there. So I don't hate that one. So – but let's we got one more here. Kyle, Jared Everett in Seattle is great. He could be a top 10 tight end in 2021. Do you agree with this?
I still think there's weapons there. Don't they have Will Dissly and Hollister there?
Hollister's with Hollister signed with the Buffalo Bills. I didn't actually put that in, so
okay. Well,
I don't hate the take, Kyle. I don't think he's going to be because I think Will Dissly is still somewhat involved. And if depending on how much they pass the ball this coming season, it's possible. I don't hate it, but I don't know if he's going to be a top 10 tight end.
I think it's possible. I do see Kyle's point though. Like Jared Everett is definitely I think he profiles better as a receiver than Will Dissly. It's just being in that offense so long and having rapport with Russell Wilson probably gives him the edge.
Agreed. All right, so let's wrap this thing up, guys. We appreciate you for listening into our free agency frenzy. Trying to think how I can end this today. So a quick promo real quick. If you guys haven't listened to the last podcast, we teamed up with the Real Fantasy Football League here. Some really great guys over there, and they're starting basically think real world meets fantasy football. They're going to have you guys flown out. I believe it's Charles, Louisiana, not Louisiana. What's LA stand for? I can't think of what state is LA. I don't know why.
Louisiana?
Is Louisiana? Okay. So, Charles, Louisiana, I believe what it is. I'll get confirmation on that. But they're basically going to fly you guys out there, do a live fantasy draft, have you come on their podcast, and monitor and podcast your guys' entire league all season long. It's such a cool experience here that they talk to me about it, and they're really passionate. They have a great thing going right now, what they're planning on doing with it. If you want to know more about it, please check out our website at www.thefantasycoaches.com. Look under our affiliates tab and check out the link there. Use our promo code, FC21 and sign up for it. And they'll interview you, and you might make a shot to, get flown out there, do the live draft, be on a podcast that airs throughout the entire season. It's a really cool experience. Check it out, guys. Again, at www.thefantasycoaches.com under our affiliates tab. And, we're going to wrap things up here now. As always, please go follow us on Twitter at Coaches Fantasy. Follow us on Instagram at Coach Stephen P. That's my name. On Instagram at the Fantasy Coaches. You can follow me at Coach Stephen P. And then
me at Hot Take Contro.
So give us all a follow, guys. I will be gone for the next couple days here. I'm heading to Puerto Rico, and Jibs will be taking over my hosting duties.
Secure the bag.
Yes,
Let's
money in
go.
the bag. Yes, so we're going to have our last Dynasty Division episode this coming week. We got a couple cool guests coming on. So see you guys next time. Take care and have a great one.